So now, educational excellence. What do we mean by that? What's it going to be like in the school? It's going to be fantastic, basically. I don't really need to say anything else, but going into a little bit more detail. Well, the detailed curriculum for reception and all of Key Stage 1, that's up to Year 3, has already been drafted, and we've got 2 leading education consultants, both of them ex-head teachers. They are devising and currently refining the curriculum. It's a work in progress, and it will be refined further and developed by the head teacher when that head has been appointed. But part of our job at the moment that we have got to submit to Richard and his colleagues at the Department for Education is we've got to show them we've got a fully developed curriculum, and that is fully in hand. It's based on the idea that learning should be fun, and at our school it will be. Exploration, investigation, projects, creativity, conversation. Every child has an independent mind and voice. What our teachers will be doing is listening to the children and responding to them. If learning is fun, then children will develop a love of learning. And that's a very simple idea. You see it happening in places, and it's wonderful when it works properly. Because of that, each child's experience of going to school, going to our school, will be unique. They will have their own interests, their own strengths, and they will be recognised by their teachers and fanned and helped to develop. If you get all of that right, what you end up with, as well as happy, well-adjusted children, is you also end up with academic excellence as a byproduct. It flows from an enjoyable education. The Jewish studies curriculum, Jewish education. Jewish education actually consists of a few different elements. There is Jewish studies. There's also what we call Jewish culture. Extra activities, because Jewish studies appear throughout the life of the school, not just in individual lessons. There will be performances, there will be special Shabbatons, etc. And it will feature in the general curriculum where appropriate. That does not mean that we're going to shoehorn Judaism into every subject. You know, history won't be just Jewish history, but the flavour of Judaism, even beyond the Jewish studies curriculum itself, will be there as a constant element within the school. If you put all of those things together, we are anticipating it will be I anticipate approximately 17.3% of the overall curriculum, give or take. Just to give you one idea of the way that our consultants are looking at this aspect of the school, within the theme of Jewish education, we're looking at the idea of having yearly themes. And this is something that they're doing in a aimed at more mature children at JCOS, and it's going very well so far. So, for example, Year 1, the theme around that we're building the Jewish education around me and myself and taking care of myself. The one for Year 4 is My World, Connections and Communication, Treatment of Fellow Human Beings. Year 6, Leadership and Responsibility. Oh, they're only 11 years old, for goodness sake. They're ready to go to university. The idea is, of course, that within each of these years, to some extent, we'll be revisiting the same topics because, of course, the Jewish year repeats itself. But as each year goes on, we may be looking at these, things like festivals from a different perspective as the child develops. So each year will build upon the knowledge and skills that they've built up in previous years. The approach is, as you've probably gathered already, what do you do? Looking at what the children's personal practice is, talking to them, helping them to understand what their classmates do and what the wider community does, not you must do this. And then the actual nuts and bolts of the Jewish curriculum. Many of you will have, I'm sure, looked at our survey on Jewish studies, and we are responding to the detailed and very inspiring responses we got from that, I have to say. There will be, of course, learning about prayer, Bible, holidays, Jewish practices and traditions, Israel, the Jewish calendar, Jewish life events, our community, and Jewish values will all feature in the curriculum. And of course, learning about other cultures is linked to Jewish education. In the culture field, This will again form part of the Jewish studies lessons, but we want children to understand that there is a world of Judaism beyond the Siddur, and that is a very, very exciting and inspiring world, and it's one that, with our focus on creativity, we expect children to explore more and more. This is looking at Jewish history, literature, art, philosophy, architecture, film, theatre, heritage, comedy. I'm sure I've missed one thing. Oh yes, of course. Perennial Jewish topic. Why haven't you eaten more biscuits? And then Hebrew. Hebrew is something we see as a central component of Jewish understanding, and we will be teaching modern Hebrew as a subject within the school. Our approach is what we call partial immersion. That means when we are doing the Hebrew, especially at the younger end of the school, reception, year 1, it will be through conversation, not through translation. And the reason for that is that all the experience and studies of our professionals show that that is a fantastic way for children to learn a foreign language. Oh, I didn't mean to go on to that yet, sorry. The brilliant aspect of the immersive approach is that it gets around the problem of words in a foreign language appearing to be simply a code, a barrier to the true meaning of that word, which is the one that's in English. What you're trying to get towards is the idea that this foreign language simply has its own meaning as well. And if you can convey that to children, frankly, I wish my teachers had taken this approach when I was learning languages, and I would have found it a lot easier. You take that approach. After they've been doing it at the age of 4 or 5, for 3 or 4 months, they're speaking that language. And a little bit about the pastoral care. This is our responsibilities beyond simply what's taught in the classroom. Very close attention to the needs of every child. It will be an emotionally responsive and supportive community, nurturing, loving, and of course, safe. And also, we will be recognising the emotional milestones, of course, of every child in the school, for example, their birthdays. Before and after school is a very important time for lots of parents, and we're looking to help in those areas. This is not just to make life easier for very busy parents, but again, it's in the interest of the child education. So we'll be looking at, well, we're definitely going to be having breakfast clubs and after-school clubs, and they will be stimulating environments, but they also provide that crucial out-of-hours help for busy parents around dropping off and picking up time. A little bit about the after-school clubs that we're planning to provide. I mean, this is just an example. We're making it a condition that every employee at the school will be expected, or at least invited, to provide an after-school club. Not just the teachers, but everybody who works there, because frankly, everybody should have something interesting to offer children. And I've got quite a bit of experience myself as a parent at my old school of running some after-school clubs, and it was a fantastic experience. I'll just give you just a couple of examples. You might think that debating society is not the most appropriate thing for primary school children. I tell you, it is amazing. And I was doing it with year 3 children. I can remember the first debate we had was, should we eat meat? And it was a really interesting debate. I got some of the kids to argue one, some of the kids to argue the other. And then at the end, I went around collecting all their notepaper in. And I looked at the paper that one little girl had been writing on. And it said, should we eat meat at the top? And underneath it, she'd written, yes. And then underneath that, sometime later, she had written, no. Then underneath that, at some point, she'd written, I don't know. We will have to find out. And I thought, well, that's brilliant. That is exactly what we want to see. This is an introduction to philosophical thought, to analytical thought. It's not just, what's the answer? And just to take another example there, Magic Club is something incredibly popular with children. You're going to find out how to do magic tricks. That's wonderful. But actually, there's so many more really useful things that a Magic Club teaches children. It teaches real technical manual dexterity, and which you can see developing, in the early years. But also, there's a lot of psychology that sort of creeps into magic. Misdirection, for example. And I've seen children learning how to do magic tricks, simple magic tricks in front of others, and actually developing the idea of how you respond to an audience and listen to where that audience's attention is going. It's a skill for life. So this is the sort of approach that we've got to the extracurricular activities.